Mezcla Tomorrow Fusion Bistro in the Grand Plaza Hotel in Tumon is now introducing an at-table all-you-can-eat breakfast menu from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. every Saturday and 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. every Sunday. Enjoy some quality time with your friends and family with some of your favorite local cuisine, from their waffle, hotcakes, and French toast station to their eggs and omelet station and a variety of scrumptious desserts. Weekends at Mezcla Bistro in the Grand Plaza Hotel just got hotter. New year, new menu. Call 969-2652 for reservations. Some restrictions apply.
213 confirmed dead from China's coronavirus, with a number of people sick nearing 10,000.
Novel coronavirus is now a public health emergency of international concern. WHO Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus says the reason for the declaration is not due to the disease outbreak in China.
Our greatest concern is the potential for the virus to spread to countries with weaker health systems.
Work to distribute information and potential vaccines has begun, but the WHO says it does not recommend travel and trade restrictions between countries.
Fox's Gernal Scott, U.S. State Department advising Americans not to travel to China. The company that owns the helicopter that crashed, killing NBA great Kobe Bryant and 8 others, says it is suspending all services. Island Express Helicopter posting a website announcement saying that the shock of the accident affected the entire staff, so it's suspending operations until deemed appropriate to resume. A Connecticut man charged in the murder of his missing wife dies days after trying to kill himself. Fotis Doulos died Friday in the hospital.
It's been a truly horrific day for the family, filled with difficult decisions, medical tests, and meeting the requirements to determine death. Having said that, we'd want to thank everybody for their interest. And as to those who contend that Mr. Doulos' death reflects a consciousness of guilt, we say no.
Doulos' attorney, Norm Pattis, police say that Doulos left a suicide note, again denying that he killed his estranged wife and the mother of their 5 children, Jennifer Doulos. She has been missing since May. And the Dow rose 124 points. I'm Carmen Roberts. This is Fox News.
The University of Guam Endowment Foundation presents How to Say I Love You, Love Languages in the Pacific. Join us on February 13th at the Guam Museum from 6 to 9 p.m. and enjoy a night of live entertainment and cultural delicacies, all while exploring the many ways we celebrate love in the region. Tickets are $60 per person and include free-flowing drinks. Proceeds will benefit the liberal arts and fine arts programs. Visit give.uog.edu and click Shop to get your tickets today. Sponsored by the Guam Daily Post, Matson Navigation, and Choice Broadcasting.
Half a day, I'm Governor Lou Leon Guerrero.
And I'm Lieutenant Governor Joshua Tenorio.
If you survived the Japanese occupation during World War II, filed a claim under the World War II Loyalty Recognition Act, and received a letter from the Foreign Claims Settlement Commission saying you are entitled to receive monetary compensation, then you may have an adjudicated claim.
Bring your claim letter and a valid government ID to our Guam War Claims Processing Center at the old Hakubotan building in Tamunin, Mondays to Fridays from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and we will help you process your claim. If you have any questions or would like to know more, call us at 472-8931 or visit our website at warclaims.guam.gov.
Getting to this point wasn't easy, and our work isn't over. But we are now beginning to heal old wounds and honor our greatest generation. And we say to those still alive to hear it, your long wait is over.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
That's what I'm talking about.
Here we go, Real Joe Cruz. It's how we always start the show here on Tall Tales, tipping you off that the Constitution of the United States is extremely important. as are the Bill of Rights, which are the first 10 amendments to that Constitution. So we pay a lot of attention to the Constitution. We pay a lot of attention to what's going on here on our beautiful island. And pay a lot of attention to you out there in an international radio listening audience. Anytime you want to hear your voice broadcast to the international radio listening audience, all you need to do is dial, well, I'll give you the long one. If you're somewhere other than the United States, 1, and then the U.S. area code 671. I'm sorry, then our area code 671, and then 888-8255, 888-TALK, and you will be with the real Joe Cruz. Will answer the phone. He'll put you on with me, and we'll be on the air talking about all of the important issues of the day. That's how we do it here. So I usually have a little anecdote about the Second Amendment, about who likes it, who doesn't like it, who's trying to take it away from us. And it'd be this portion of the program where I read that into the record. And I have a kind of a long one here today from the Mises report on the internet. Ludwig von Mises, the famous Austrian economist, has lent his name to that website. So it's a good conservative economic website. And this is the title of the article: Markets Provide Guns Despite Government Restrictions. For this first time in nearly 2 decades, Democrats have taken control of Virginia's state politics by a slim margin. The party took 21 Senate seats and 53 House seats, while the Republicans netted 19 and 43, respectively. Virginia has a population of roughly 8 million, and just over 5.5 million of them are registered to vote. Of the latter, only 40% cast a ballot in the contentious 2019 election. In spite of the clearly narrow official victory and the millions who silently withheld their assent, the Democrat elected officials think that the contest is over and the debate closed. Washington Post has even declared that the Confederacy in Virginia is dead. Those who've rested the power on a single-minded campaign to remake Virginia and their image of civility and common sense, and a slew of gun control bills are currently being heard by the Senate Judiciary Committee. Even the enormous turnout at the Virginia Citizens Defense League, VCDL, most recent lobby day did not faze Virginia's new rulers. They've conquered, and they remain dead set on pushing their oppressive agenda through in spite of the evident division and vociferous opposition within the local population. But the truth is that Virginia's natural right to self-defense, in particular with the aid of firearms, has been threatened for years now. Every legislative session feels dire. Several anti-gun bills are typically introduced, and the VCDL puts up as good a fight as it can. It tracks all of the insane legislation proposed, files lawsuits, and urges its members to beg elected officials to be reasonable via email and strong attendance at committee meetings. Most recently, Governor Northam, you got to remember Governor Northam, he is the blackface governor who's in favor of infanticide, made quite a name for himself. Most recently, Governor Northam surreptitiously waited until the last moment to declare a state of emergency, allowing him to override subjects' right to bear arms on the Capitol grounds, where the VCDL has been assembling for its lobby day rally for years. Though the VCDL immediately called for an injunction against the gun ban, it was promptly denied, and thousands ended up taking one for the team, entering the governor's dangerous corral unarmed and vulnerable to assault. groveling is ultimately the only approved option that the state's subjects have. Groveling. Regularly faced with the imminent threat of gun restrictions, people are nonetheless regularly purchasing guns, ammunition, and magazines. And manufacturers struggle to keep the items in stock. Now, here's the interesting part. It's something I didn't know. So that tells you how esoteric it is and how important it is. In particular, they struggle to keep enough of what are known as 80% lower receivers in their inventory. Demand is so high it can take several weeks just for an order to ship. So gun dealers are keeping a lot of 80% lower receivers in their inventory. Well, what's that? The firearm industry came up with, quote, 80% lowers as a temporary workaround to provide eager customers with firearms, especially AR and AK platform rifles, in an age of increasing gun control. The ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, arbitrarily defines completed lower receivers, which have been milled out to accommodate the trigger and hammer of a firearm, as firearms, requiring a serial number stamp and a background check to obtain. Some years ago, the firearms industry started selling 80% lowers or blanks. These are not defined as firearms and fall outside the scope of ATF regulation. These lowers, essentially pieces of polymer or aluminum with just a magazine opening hollowed out, ship right to your door with no background check. With a drill press and a jig to guide the drilling, customers can turn them into functional lower receivers and build unmarked, untraceable firearms. Whoa, don't try this at home. Of course, there are already major caveats. Some states, such as New York, have ordered such manufacturers to cease and desist sales under threat of fines. And the firearm must still be built according to local restrictions. Builders are prohibited from transferring the firearm unless they obtain a federal firearms license and mark the firearms, and it's exclusively for personal use. Nevertheless, unfinished lowers still allow people to build a firearm of some kind, even in the most restrictive states. The ingenuity and flexibility of the market is simply incredible. In spite of all kinds of restrictions and red tape, consumer demand for firearms remains high, and the industry has found a way to meet that demand, at least until the ATF decides to arbitrarily redefine firearms. So the market still has options for Virginians who want firearms, and particularly semi-automatic long guns, even if gun control passes. And let's not forget that many arms manufacturers do make different versions of the same model so that people in as many different states as possible can remain customers and defend themselves. In spite of all these positives, the question remains: we have all the factors and knowledge to produce quality firearms quickly and disseminate them widely. So why must we all become something of a gunsmith? Why must customers refer to primitive, laborious home techniques to mill a receiver that will never look as nice as a factory-made one? And that is sometimes of lesser quality. Why must they devote time to producing something themselves that several groups of people can do better? Of course, it's to build a firearm and customize it with special sights, triggers, muzzles, etc., and more. But if firearms were more freely available and not subject to government tracking and seizure, it seems likely that some percentage of customers would simply purchase a decent rifle and fine-tune it instead. Government restrictions on guns, and for that matter, other items for which there is a persistent customer demand, simply add artificial barriers to the market that raise costs and add steps to production process other than those that would arise in a natural free market. In the case of firearms, the state restrictions seem to be encouraging a slow but budding breakdown in the division of labor by pushing people to build their own rifles and handguns to escape the state's increasingly oppressive edicts. It's wonderful that the semi-free market provides options, but one can only imagine the low cost and the amazing new firearm technology that the firearms industry would be freed up to realize if it weren't busied with circumventing useless, tyrannical government legislation. So there you are, 80% lowers. So if you buy a rifle that is for which the receiver is not completely finished, and you can do it yourself, then you get out from under all the gun control in Virginia. Talk about the doctrine of unintended consequences. Wouldn't it just be better to say, we have a Second Amendment, we're not supposed to infringe the right to keep and bear arms, so we're going to sell you pistols and rifles, etc., and we want you to know how to shoot those pistols and rifles, so maybe we'll put some required training into the program. But for the left has gun control, and the right has abortion. Both of those words sound very well in the echo chambers of the proponents. And both of them are what you would call dog whistle type words. So if a Democrat hears the word guns, firearms, semi-automatic weapons, assault rifles, even if they don't care at all about the matter, they'll say, well, I'm a good Democrat, I got to be against that. Okay, so much for the Second Amendment for today. Let's go from there to Zemi Ikotny. On second thought, let's hold on to Zemi Ikotny for a minute or two. Our Carl is really, really early today. He must have some important errands that he has to run to get his call in this early. Good afternoon, our Carl.
Hey, Bob. Good afternoon. Yeah, I'm not going to be on long this time. I just wanted to comment. The left is extremely expert at framing arguments, and guns are a trigger word.
Good, Carl. Guns are a trigger word.
Yeah, so when
you really sighted in on that one, didn't you?
Yeah.
You took
I really didn't mean to say
you
that.
took careful aim before you let that one fly. Good going.
Yeah.
Carl. That sounds like something I'd say. Guns are a trigger word. Go ahead, Carl.
Well, you feel free to use that anytime. I don't have a copyright on it. But yeah, the word, that phrase, the right to bear arms, really what it means, if you reframe it properly or reframe it in a less triggery way, is it's the right to keep and bear a tool for defending your God-given life and the lives of your loved ones, or whoever happens to be around in the case of a mass shooting, like in that Texas church. I've become very conscious of how words can be used to frame things. That's why one reason why I don't like using, I like calling the movement away from America, the move to separate from America as opposed to the other title. So anyway, that's just a minor tweak, I think, to the the label that's usually given. I think the founders had no idea, that we were going to face what we're facing today, but maybe if they knew, they might have phrased it slightly differently. Who knows?
Well, maybe they did. Maybe they did know. Maybe that's why it was the Second Amendment.
Yeah, very true. I have a feeling that wasn't a coincidence, that it's so high up the ladder of the Bill of Rights. The second out of 27. I have a feeling there was a reason for that order. The first being, the ones in the First Amendment that are so vital. And in case those are threatened, well, we have the Second Amendment to defend the First Amendment. But anyway, I like to think of it as the right to keep and bear tools for defending one's God-given life and the lives of the people we love, and sometimes total strangers who just happen to be, being robbed or in the process of being killed by some criminal. So anyway, that's just a minor thought I thought I'd toss in there. And as I said, I'm not going to stay long this time. I just wanted to toss that in there.
Well, if you stop to think about it, the two strongest instincts of humans, in fact, probably almost all animals, number one is self-preservation. Number two is propagation of the race. Self-preservation, staying alive. And if on the frontier, if you needed a gun to stay alive, then there was some sense that we ought to protect the ability of people to stay alive. Unfortunately, if the frontier was violent, back at the end of the 1700s, they ain't got nothing on us now. Talk about a violent society, we're there. And of course,
one of the things
the Democrats' idea of making it less violent would be to take the guns away from law-abiding people and let only the bad, violent people to continue to have them.
Exactly, yeah. I think one of the driving forces behind the gun control is this never-ending drive to try and achieve utopia. But the problem is that it would result, in exactly what you're saying, is that guns to protect, our lives would be taken away from law-abiding citizens. They would obey the law. But the criminals, the people who are out there killing people and robbing people, wouldn't turn in their guns. So all it would do is vastly expand the market of victims for the criminals. So it's a utopian kind of idea that I think would result in a lot of unnecessary death. Anyway, Bob, thank you for allowing me to.
Yeah, well, you were right in at the very beginning. You were probably as quick on the draw as Senator Madamko down there at the Hakabotan building, who got their picture taken with our governor, Lulian Guerrero. Thanks for calling, Carl.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, so our Carl chimes in at the very beginning of the program. And now we go to Demi E. Cotney, also referred to as Meet the Press. And looking at it today, you might actually think that the Daily News editorial has something to do with us here in one of the Gannett newspaper's hometowns, the Pacific Daily News. It's called Our View, Preparation Over Fear. Coronavirus is cause for concern, not panic. Okay, coronavirus, man. We've been talking about coronavirus a lot here. We've been talking about coronavirus almost as much as we've been talking about war reparations and Jesse Bloss. It's hard to say which one is the more serious. And then the article goes on to say, this just in, a deadly virus spreading around the globe will result in death of tens of thousands of Americans. We are certain about this because it always does. Its name is influenza. And as recently as the 2017-18 season, it resulted in 61,000 American fatalities. So the editorial goes on to distinguish coronavirus from flu, making the point that the flu is already an extremely serious problem, but we don't panic because of it. So, of course, this editorial is not about Guam. It becomes clearer the farther you get into it. It's about, it has more of a U.S. dimension. I suppose not so bad. Had there been a little intro from the local editors saying, we're concerned about coronavirus. So our Gannett News Service has a good editorial dealing with that. So we thought we'd share that with you instead of, open up the editorial page of the Daily News and there it is. There it is, another Gannett editorial. The Post also has an editorial about coronavirus and about Vice Speaker Talina Nelson. Suspension of inbound flights extreme, but Guam's readiness must improve. I'll say it's extreme. You'll recall yesterday it was announced by Talina that she has talked to Tom Atta about closing the airport to all flights from just about, I think flights from the Vatican City can still arrive. And I think flights from Liechtenstein would still be allowed into our airport. Any flight arriving from the South Pole could land, but that's pretty much it. And so I had this mental image of Tom Atta going out in a pickup truck and putting sawhorses at the end of each runway with signs saying, closed because of coronavirus. Okay, so let me hold on to the editorial here for a second. We have a caller that wants to make his mark. I wonder, Mark, did you call yesterday and then think better of it before I could pick up?
Yeah, well, you went on a break, and I had another phone call, and by the time I was ready to call back, it was you were already going off the air.
Okay.
So sorry about that, Bob.
No problem.
I wanted to call about a meme that I saw on Facebook, and it basically was an actor. I'm trying to remember who it was now. I don't remember who it was, but he said something to the effect of, can we now call the coronavirus the Kung Flu?
The Kung Flu. Yeah.
Kung Flu. Yeah.
Very good.
And then the other one was a funny video about this guy. It wasn't on Guam. It looked like it was on Guam, like from a hotel balcony looking down at a garden. And he was holding up a can of Lysol spray, and on the back of the Lysol spray, it says it can kill all these germs, including the coronavirus. So it's on the back of a can of Lysol.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my 2 cents for today. And like Carl, I'm going to, graciously bow out from here.
Well, you made your mark already, so thanks for calling, Mark.
Thanks, Bob. You have a good weekend.
Thank
Bye.
you. So, Lysol kills coronavirus. If left to my own devices, you know what I thought might have done the job, Real Joe Cruz?
What, sir?
WD-40.
Yeah.
You can use WD-40 for just about anything.
You can, sir.
Yeah. Okay, back to the editorial in the Post. Vice Speaker Talina Nelson on Thursday opened up a public conversation about an extreme measure to keep the deadly new coronavirus called 2019 nCoV from reaching Guam shores. She proposed suspending flights into Guam from Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and other places that have confirmed or suspected cases of the virus. The death toll in China has more than tripled in a few days to more than 170 Thursday, and the confirmed cases have reached several thousands. The Guam public's reaction to Nelson's proposal have been mixed. Well, my reaction hasn't been Mixed. And I'll tell you why, Real Joe Cruz. Let's say that the coronavirus has the ability to cause the death of a person. So Talina's saying we don't want to die from coronavirus, so we're not going to let any planes from anywhere come in, except for those exceptions that I mentioned, the South Pole, Liechtenstein, Vatican City, Monte Carlo. Those planes from those destinations can come in. Otherwise, no. So my analysis is this. If the coronavirus, if Nelson succeeds and gets Tom Atta to close the runways to any incoming aircraft, if the coronavirus doesn't kill us, what will kill us is starvation, because we're all going to starve to death. Where will the money come from if the tourists don't come in on the airplanes? Okay, now this article here, I had an article, I can't find it now. It was this international organization that declared the coronavirus a global emergency. I can't remember the name of that global organization.
WHO.
Yeah, who, Real Joe Cruz?
Yes, sir. It's called WHO.
Who?
What?
Who?
WHO, sir.
Yeah.
You're correct.
Who are you talking about?
The WHO, the organization.
Which organization?
What? Who?
Who?
Yes,
yeah,
sir. Who?
That's what I'm asking you. Who? What's the name of the organization?
Who? Ah.
Okay, Real Joe Cruz. Yeah. Did you say what?
I said who, sir?
Oh. First base.
Okay.
All right. Talina, the Guam public's reaction to Nelson's proposals have been mixed. We urge caution on suspending inbound flights from some of Guam's major tourism markets, such as Japan and South Korea, because it wouldn't effectively stop the virus from reaching us. The nature of international travel is that transit hubs from other locations would expose people to the virus if there ever would be a disease carrier in any airport or flight. In other words, if you came to Guam from Korea, you would have the chances would be there that you could contract the virus in the airport in Seoul, because passengers from China pass through that airport. Palau did recently decide to suspend incoming flights from China, but in Guam's case, there are no direct flights from China to the island. Most tourists from mainland China travel to Guam via South Korea, Japan, or Manila. It's impossible to suspend the major inbound Guam flights that sustain our trade and tourism. But more than 21,000 jobs and households will suffer. More than that. I'd say if she were successful, if she could actually do that, we'd all suffer. And it wouldn't take long. Most countries worldwide have not implemented travel bans in response to this outbreak that started in Wuhan. And they are not recommended by, what's the name of that organization again, Real Joe Cruz?
Who, sir?
Who?
Who?
Yeah.
That's the name of the organization.
What?
Who?
Who's the name of the organization?
Correct, sir.
Yeah. Okay. They are not recommended by WHO, according to the island nation of Fiji's health ministry. What we do appreciate with Nelson's action is it helped to foster community discussions about what we can do. What we need to do is make sure our government health facilities can adequately handle a case or cases of 2019 nCoV. We need to hear the details on containment if a passenger arrives on Guam and later turns out to be a carrier of the virus that's rapidly spreading in China and other parts of the world. Government officials need to tell us what the plan will be if Guam Memorial will overflow beyond capacity and how patients will be isolated. Well, stopping here again, right now we have a hard time handling a serious case of the common cold at our hospital. We're already way past the point where we should be dealing with the kinds of health concerns that we would expect in a city of 160,000. So we've got a lot of hard work to do just to catch up to be where we should be if there were no coronavirus. But we're working on it. We've got an Academy for Public Policy down at the university. We talked about that the other day. And after several hours of debate, it was decided that the kids that get to go to that Public Policy Institute must be picked on the basis of ethnicity indigeneity. They must be indigenous and diverse. So we spent a lot of time on that. We spent a lot of time figuring out how much money we can squander on FestPac. We had the whole circus dealing with the mayor of Jonia. We haven't spent that much time on the hospital. Going on with the editorial, well, the Department of Public Health and Social Services has laid out a plan that involves isolating a traveler. Here's something, Real Joe Cruz. Isolating a traveler once he or she shows symptoms. That's sexist. That's anti-transgender. I'm going to reword that sentence. Has laid out a plan that isolating a traveler once they show symptoms. Much better, right?
That is, sir, because I don't think the virus cares.
Yeah. There have been cases when transmitters of the new coronavirus didn't show signs of the pneumonia-like illness until much later into the progression of the viral disease and via submission of blood work. A 10-year-old boy's case in Wuhan, published in January 24 in the Lancet Medical Journal, was first to demonstrate person-to-person and healthcare-associated spread of the virus. The asymptomatic infection has fueled the concern the pathogen, which has already spread to 15 countries and infected close to 6,000 people, may turn out to be harder to detect and contain than SARS. We on Guam have reason to be concerned, and that's in part because of uncertainty or perception that the capacity of our healthcare system will not be able to handle an outbreak. The government, in partnership with federal health officials, can ease fears by giving us updates on comprehensive efforts toward preparation and containment. The more we know, the less worrisome we'll be. So the editorial here must have been listening to Jack yesterday, because that's pretty much what Jack said. The local government, in partnership with federal health officials, can ease fears by giving us updates on comprehensive efforts towards preparation and containment. And I can't argue with that. I do have some observations, though, and the word freaking out is part of my observation. There is some rhetoric out there that if you're not freaking out, you're not paying attention. You should run right downtown and get yourself an N95 mask, and you should wash your hands about every 15 minutes. It's probably not a bad idea anyhow. And no matter where you go or what you do, you should live in fear of the coronavirus. And if you're not doing that, you're just not paying attention. This is not the way to deal with any kind of problem, disease or non-disease. That's one first observation. Second observation is this. The coronavirus won't last forever. We've been through things so many times before. Outbreak of various kinds of disease, dengue fever, SARS, swine flu, etc. We went head to head, nose to nose with Kim Jong Un, UNPO, Kim Jong Un, when he was talking about rocketing us here, and he blinked first. So we've been through a lot of this stuff before, and if we just keep marching and keep our heads about it, they don't last forever. They don't last very long. They tend to be self-limiting. And my analysis is that the same thing will be true of the coronavirus. A year from now, and we'll be looking back and be saying, hey, remember last year, right around the end of January, everybody got his skivvies all bunched up because of coronavirus. You never hear anything about it today, right? So the coronavirus is not going to last long term. But our tourist industry is. We sure as heck want it to last a long time. So in the interest of not scaring away our tourist industry, we shouldn't get into this knee-jerk reaction like Senator Talina Nelson. Let's ban all flights, all incoming flights, except those coming from the South Pole. Now imagine yourself as an investor in one of the places, in some place where people like to invest money in tourist destinations, and you're looking around at worldwide tourist destinations, and your able assistant, the real Joe Schwartz, I just made that up, the real Joe Schwartz says, how about Guam? Maybe we should build a hotel in Guam. Okay, let's take a short break here, and then we'll come back and build that hotel.
Cocoa Coffee Company is now available at Circle K. Single origin coffee beans carefully sourced and locally roasted to give you the freshest cup of coffee Guam has to offer. Grab a cup that's brewed every 30 minutes or purchase a bag of the locally roasted whole beans. Flavors now serving: light medium roasted Ethiopia and medium dark roasted Jamaican Blue Mountain. Exclusively available at Circle K. With every Cocoa Coffee Company purchase, a portion of the proceeds will go towards the Cocoa Recovery Program.
The UOG Endowment Foundation presents How to Say I Love You, Love Languages in the Pacific, Thursday, February 13th at the Guam Museum from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. $60 per person includes cultural delicacies, free-flowing drinks, and live entertainment. Love Languages in the Pacific will benefit the liberal arts and fine arts program.
Welcome back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, Guam's single voice of reason. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
Yeah, so I'm going to wrap this up. There's no blue star for the Post today. Fair editorial, but they just weren't hard enough on Senator Talina Nelson, who completely overreacted here with his banning on all flights into the island. And that's the point I want to make. If you're an investor and you're thinking about investing in a hotel on Guam, and you look at the papers and you say, no, I don't know, I don't want some senator out there flying off the handle and putting us out of business by canceling all the flights into the island. That's not a safe investment. Now, we all know that disease is a fact of life and epidemics need to be dealt with, but if they are so unbalanced and so overreaching over there at the Guam legislature, I don't want to risk my money. Now, I'm not saying we need to take any health risks. I'm just saying that, we have a Department of Public Health and Social Services. We have a Director of Public Health and Social Services. We have a hospital. We have doctors. Our governor is a nurse. I would expect the leadership to come from them. And if they're not stepping forward and providing it, Jack and I will get on them unmercifully. But I don't expect Talina Nelson, because her committee has jurisdiction over the airport, to come forward and say, Tom Etta, get up there and close all those runways. You might even think about renting a backhoe and digging a trench across the runways so that no planes can come in here. That's how we'll keep safe. not a balanced approach, and it may have long-term, if that her approach has the potential of having more serious long-term effects than the coronavirus does. Okay, so much for Zemi-Ikotny. Let's go to the card. And here's what I got on the card for today. We start out with Lou versus the press. And Lou, of course, has been winning that one every day. And we go from the Animal Wellness Association versus Gods and Arrows. And then we've got Guam Visitors Bureau versus Talina. And I have a feeling you know what that's going to be about, right? And then I've got Guam versus Afrikaners. That's where we're going to talk about UNPO. Guam versus Afrikaners. And then, let's see, after that, we go down to, whoa, where are we here? Yeah, Robert Underwood versus us, Pope versus Trump, Antonio Gramsci versus y'all, and also in there somewhere, oh yeah, I'm sorry, before that is Chief Ignacio versus Public Safety. Subtitle, let's get really tough on drunk drivers, unless they happen to be cops. And Tall Tales versus the Hell No Group. Okay, so Lou versus the press. Lou is still doing it. She made it today in the Daily News. 650 plus war survivors now wait advance checks. So I should have done a running count of how many days Lou was able to keep that ball bouncing in the newspapers. And this time around, while most survivors of Guam have already visited the center on its first days of opening, there are still others coming into the former Hakabotan building. War survivor Dorothea P. Pareda said she initially thought she lost the letter she got from the Foreign Claims Settlement Commission. Whoa. Which is why she wasn't able to go to the processing center sooner. Press Secretary Crystal Paco San Augustine, if you will, said 632 adjudicated war claims were processed at the Tumani Center by Friday. And by the way, there was a picture in the paper of Dorothea P. San Augustine. So good, really good coverage here. Still some more checks to hand out. Still some more photo ops to come. And then a really nice one on KUAM TV last night, a picture of Lou with a lady named Maria Flores in her car. And the caption is, Maria Flores was unable to leave her vehicle to accept her check. So the governor went out to present a check to Flores in person. Who said governors don't make house calls? Yeah, kind of the Uber theory of government, right? And this same article says, homebound service begins for war claims processing. Just call the phone number that everybody and his brother probably tries to call all day long, and someone will deliver that check to you. It could even be the governor. And once again, the governor, I've got a thick stack here, because the governor has been so successful in getting all of this media coverage. And, of course, it's not over yet. Poor Michael San Nicolas, if he gets mentioned on somebody's Facebook, he's doing pretty good. And, of course, if it weren't for him, there wouldn't be any checks to hand out. And people have forgotten, except for me, that if San Nicolas's bill doesn't pass, then we're going to have to eat all of those advance payments that Lou so irresponsibly made. But she did it for the Manamku. Okay, next is AWA, Animal Welfare Association versus Gods and Arrow. And I've been saying since the beginning of the controversy here, you remember a year ago, the Congress said cockfighting in any of the territories was illegal. And of course, under Article 4, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution, Congress can legislate directly for territories, not for the states. So we found out that all 50 of the states had finally outlawed cockfighting. And a year ago, the idea was, well, the only places left under the American flag that have cockfighting are in the territories. So Congress can outlaw it. Congress did. They said, we'll give you a year to prepare. You know what we did during that year, real Joe Cruz?
What's that, sir?
Not a thing. Not a thing. We waited until the deadline came along, and then we did a lot of really high-powered blustering. Senator Shelton added an amendment to the budget law that said enforcing this law will be our lowest priority, which is really great fodder for a stand-up comedian. The lowest priority of the government of Guam? You'd have to go to the bottom of the Marianas Trench to find the lowest priority of the government of Guam. It's obviously lower than the hospital, lower than public safety, lower than the schools. So the lowest priority. And of course, the government of Guam doesn't have a direct role in enforcing that ban anyhow. But of course, there's more to the story, and that is that since 2002, it has been illegal to ship cocks, I'm going to use that word cocks, cockfighting roosters, in interstate commerce. And under Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution, the U.S. Congress has the ability to regulate interstate commerce. So a law was passed that said you can't ship fighting cocks in interstate commerce or to the territories. And we know that an awful lot of that interstate shipment continued right up until this year. Tom Poole called us and said that he had talked with Mr. Wayne Pacell, who'd shown him cockfighting magazines with pictures of Guam gods and arrows in it and their birds. So we know that if anybody wanted to make a federal case out of it, the material is certainly there. The illegal shipment of fighting cocks in interstate commerce. So when we finally got down to it, you know, we had a lot of blustering, including Mayor Jesse Paco of MTM, who said, well, it'll just go underground. And and then Wayne Pacell's outfit came along and said, we'll give you a $2,500 reward if you give us a tip-off that leads to a conviction of an illegal cockfight. And Rudy Paco said, you know, that will put you at risk because you'll have to go down in court and you'll be at risk. So this was kind of the general overall, not the overall, but the most easily heard response to the whole thing. A lot of bluster. And I've been saying from the beginning, this guy Wayne Pacell and his outfit means business. These are not guys to be trifled with. And I was working on a tract from one of the animal rights gang yesterday that I'll get back to today, talking about an animal's right to bring suit in a court. And this animal rights gang, I think they're out there on the lunatic fringe. But they've drunk gallons and gallons of the Kool-Aid, and for them, it's a deeply held article of faith to protect these animals. And I just have the feeling that this thing is not going to end very well for some people here on the island if they don't wise up and say, okay, it was good while it lasted, but now it's over. And that's what Dale Alvarez did down in, I think, Santa Rita. He said, yeah, I'm not going to do it anymore. It's against the law. The last member of the Guam Cockfighting Board resigned from the board. He said, I'm not going to be on there anymore. It's illegal. Lou Leon Guerrero called mayors to her office and said, don't be submitting any applications for cockfight licenses during your village fiestas, I won't be granting them. So everyone seems to have gotten on the right side of it, except for Chelsea Munya Brecht, who's the director of agriculture, who said, I'm not going to change anything. We're not disobeying any laws. Notwithstanding the fact that this guy, Wayne Pacelle, has shown her, you know, how many illegal importations there were, et cetera. So I guess if the director of agriculture, you know, wants to be gutsy, fine. But I just have the feeling that what Pacelle is doing, he's laying out all of these warnings, and I'll get to another one here in a minute, so that when he finally lowers the boom on somebody, he'll be able to say, you can't say I didn't warn you. I wasn't real quick on this. I gave you plenty of chances. Okay, I've got Mary on the line. Good afternoon, Mary.
Hi, just to let you know, I enjoy your show tremendously.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay, and have a good day. I really enjoy and I agree with a lot of the stuff you say.
Well, thank you very much. I hope others would call and express that same sentiment, Mary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Bye-bye. Great call. Wow. 1,700 already?
That big halftime show.
Did we skip a break?
No. We're good to go.
Huh. How's that old saying? Real time flies when you're having fun. Real deal, Cruz.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
The trial may end Friday. I'm Carmen Roberts, Fox News. The Senate may end President Trump's impeachment trial as early as Friday evening, now that it appears there may not be enough votes to call for witnesses. GOP Senator Lamar Alexander said late Friday night he would not vote to call witnesses. And at this point, only 2 GOP senators say they would support the measure.
The reason we talk about this witness vote, that's the key vote, a gateway vote that could open the door to witnesses. If they slam that gate, then they're not going to have witnesses, and they will probably wrap up the trial.
Fox's Chad Pergram on Capitol Hill says nearly all the senators agree and appear eager to end the trial.
The dirtiest secret in Washington right now is that both sides want to get this over with. Republicans want to exonerate the president as quickly as possible. On the Democratic side of the aisle, Chuck Schumer has senators carping at him. They want to get to Iowa to campaign.
President Trump's been campaigning in Iowa. He was there Friday night. He told Fox's Peter Doocy he believes some Democratic senators will vote to acquit him.
I got to watch a little bit. It's very boring to watch. I have to say that. It's very boring. I call it the impeachment hoax, and that's what it is. It's a hoax. It should have never taken place, should have never been allowed to happen. But I have great confidence in Republican senators and probably some Democrats, from what I understand.
And the Iowa caucuses begin on Monday. After 3 meetings, the World Health Organization declares China's coronavirus a global health emergency.
The main reason for this declaration is not because of what is happening in China, but because of what is happening in other countries.
General Director of WHO, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, and we have now 213 confirmed dead from the virus. America's listening to Fox News.
Mescla Chamorro Fusion Bistro in the Grand Plaza Hotel in Tumon is now introducing an at-table all-you-can-eat breakfast menu from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. every Saturday and 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. every Sunday. Enjoy some quality time with your friends and family with some of your favorite local cuisine, from their waffle, hotcakes, and French toast station to their eggs and omelet station and a variety of scrumptious desserts. Weekends at Mescla Bistro in the Grand Plaza Hotel just got hotter. New year, new menu. Call 969-2652 for reservations. Some restrictions apply.
Yikes, are those Christmas bills coming in already? Those high-interest credit cards at 16, 18, even 24%? Well, we have a New Year's solution for you. A Bank Pacific personal loan with rates as low as 4.65% to pay off those expensive credit cards. It's easy, it's fast, and it's as low as 4.65% APR.
Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal credit opportunity lender as low as 4.65%. Conditions apply.
A Coast Guard lieutenant accused of stockpiling guns and drafting a hit list of prominent Democrats and TV journalists faces sentencing Friday. Christopher Hassan pleaded guilty to firearms and drug offenses. He could get up to 31 years in prison. Investigators still searching for missing 7-year-old Joshua Vallow and his 17-year-old sister Tylee Ryan, who've been missing since December. A judge ordered the mother, Lori Vallow, to produce the children by Thursday, but she failed to show up. The children's grandmother, Kay Woodcock, says that she wants to sue for custody of the children.
Since she's done all this, since this has come to this far without any kind of adult conversation.
Lori and her husband, Chad Daybell, are reportedly in Hawaii. A major U.S. city is changing its world-famous gender-specific nickname.
Philadelphia residents are known for being hard on their sports teams and even booed Santa Claus one year, so we don't know how they'll react to this. But the place once known as the City of Brotherly Love changed its nickname to the City of Sisterly Love Thursday. The new name will remain in place until the end of 2020. It's in honor of the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, granting women the right to vote. It was approved by Congress in June 1919 and ratified the following August. Tom Rigotti, Fox News.
And stocks in the day with gains after a late-day buying spree. Investors encouraged by the World Health Organization acknowledging the seriousness of China's coronavirus. The Dow rose 124 points, the Nasdaq up 23, and Dow futures down now modestly, the Nasdaq a little bit higher. I'm Carmen Roberts, and this is Fox News.
Mescla Chamorro Fusion Bistro in the Grand Plaza Hotel in Tumon is stirring up some of your favorite drinks all night long. Come down on Wednesday and Friday nights from 5:30 to 10 p.m. Indulge in some of your favorite local cuisine and pair it with your favorite drink. From our ice-cold beers, our finest selection of wines and liquors, to our top-notch cocktail specials, your friends at Mescla Bistro Tumon are ready to serve you. Why limit happy to only an hour? The Mescla family reminds everyone to drink responsibly. See you on Wednesday and Friday night.
The University of Guam Endowment Foundation presents How to Say I Love You, Love Languages in the Pacific. Join us on February 13th at the Guam Museum from 6 to 9 p.m. and enjoy a night of live entertainment and cultural delicacies, all while exploring the many ways we celebrate love in the region. Tickets are $60 per person and include free-flowing drinks. Proceeds will benefit the liberal arts and fine arts programs. Visit give.uog.edu and click Shop to get your tickets today. Sponsored by the Guam Daily Post, Matson Navigation, and Choice Broadcasting.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
are. Once again, we all enjoy that big halftime show we have every afternoon at 1700. I'm not quite finished with the Animal Welfare Association versus Gajaneros, but I'm going to divert back to the coronavirus for a moment, because I've got dueling poets on Facebook. We start with Ishmael Velez, who says, once upon an outbreak, Talina Nelson spoke, urging the shutting of the airport so her ego she could stroke, exclaiming her worry for the people, hoping that we could take note, so that come this November, for her they would vote. But why all the commotion? It must all be a smokescreen, because coronavirus is just one killer, and in the legislature we have 15. Way to work, Ishmael. And then our poet laureate, Andrew, chimes in with, let's see, where's Andrew's here? Yeah. Andrew says, what's all this I hear about panic and fear? I'll stay out of trouble and live in a bubble, stocked with a whole lot of beer. Does that resonate with you, Real Joe Cruz?
It does, sir.
Yeah, I kind of thought so. All right. So back to Animal Rights Association, Wayne Purcell versus Gajaneros. I kind of brought you up to date here before the break. These guys mean business. They've obviously got some money. They are idealists or ideologues. You know, this whole animal rights thing for them is a quasi religion, I suspect. And the latest is this: cockfighting opponents pay for Super Bowl commercial. On Thursday, they announced they have produced a 30-second video that will be aired during the local broadcast of the Super Bowl. A federal law that expands existing national cockfighting ban to Guam and the U.S. territories and it's not a national ban. Sorry, folks. It was about each of the states decided on its own to ban cockfighting. A federal law bans cockfighting on Guam and the other territories took effect December 20, 1 year after President Trump signed it into law. Those who sponsor or exhibit birds in a cockfight face a fine and a maximum term of 5 years if convicted. Attending a cockfight would be punishable by a fine as long as 1 year in federal prison. Cockfighting has been legal on Guam for about 200 years, with cockpits licensed by the local government, up to about 10 years ago when we decided it wasn't that important and we quit licensing them. Although the ban is now in effect, mainland-based cockfighting opponents and Animal Wellness Action and Animal Wellness Foundation have expressed concerns. The sport will continue underground, have offered a $2,500 reward for information that leads to a conviction. Animal Wellness Action is part of the Animal Wellness Foundation. Here's a quote: cockfighting is about gambling. It's not about our culture, a man standing in Hagatnya states at the beginning of the video. I think it's time we end the medieval practice of having animals fight and die for our amusement, states a young woman standing on the University of Guam campus. The video then provides the results of a recent survey on cockfighting and encourages viewers to report illegal cockfighting and to visit a related website. The ad is another quote, the ad is a direct appeal to the people of Guam to help us root out cockfighting on the island because it's illegal, inhumane, and bound up with gambling, said Wayne Purcell, president of Animal Wellness Action. We know that the vast majority of citizens on Guam support our position. We just need to activate them so this activity is no longer tolerated. So these guys are not going to go away, you know. It's not going to be one of those. In the beginning, You know, when the news first broke, well, who are they going to send out here? Who are they going to send out here to enforce it? They're going to send somebody out here from Washington? Well, the United States Attorney has announced that he will prosecute cases brought to him in accordance with the resources available to his office. And although the U.S. government hasn't sent anybody out here, this do-gooder organization sent somebody out here. So I am not going to be going to any cockfights. I wouldn't anyhow, but it just is not worth the risk to even go to a cockfight, given this organization and their vigorous attempts to end cockfighting on the island. Now, again, I've explained my concept of federalism. We ought to be able to decide on our own what's legal and what's not legal. We ought to decide how we're going to treat animals right here on Guam. We shouldn't have to be suffering for the diktat of some faceless bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. But that's where we are, and it's time for a little realism. Okay, and next on the card is the Guam Visitors Bureau versus Talina Nelson. Vice Speaker Nelson's proposal to suspend flights from Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and the Philippines and other nations where the new coronavirus has been confirmed has prompted concerns over Guam tourist industry and the 21,000 people it employs. If flights are indeed suspended, we are also concerned about the livelihood of over 21,000 men and women and their families who are the heart of our tourist industry that may impact and Guam's economy, stated GVB Acting President and CEO Bobby Alvarez. Tourists have taken precautions arriving at the Wanpat Airport wearing masks, and many of them also donning masks as they waited for departing flights. But as soon as they went about sightseeing on Guam, not many were seen with face masks in Tumon and in tour buses yesterday. The GHRA also is concerned about the fate of the tourism industry if the flights from main tourist source markets are suspended. GHRA President Mary Tory Rhodes said GHRA members are also taking precautions and working with government agencies with the aim of ensuring the safety of guests and employees. GHRA is working closely with government agencies and also to ensure that Guam is a safe destination, Rhodes said. Hospitality employees have inquired whether they should wear protective face masks. I know some people that should wear face masks even if there isn't any coronavirus. Real Joe Cruz. That's a horribly sexist thing to say, isn't it?
It is, sir.
Yeah. I'll probably say it again before the program's over. On Thursday, the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands government declared a state of significant emergency in the CNMI, banning the entry of visitors from China in order to prevent the entry and spread of the virus. The ban became effective immediately. While the CNMI has had direct flights from China, Guam hasn't had one in more than a year. The Department of Public Health and Social Services and their partners from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention are visiting healthcare facilities across the island to educate providers on the signs and symptoms of the new coronavirus, according to a press release from the Office of the Governor, DPHSS, the Guam Homeland Security Office of Civil Defense, and JAC. Not really. I just added Jack's name in there. I just wondered if he's listening. A lot of times he doesn't get on the program.
I'm sure he's listening, sir.
Yeah, I suspect he is. Okay, so I got it's either Pete or repeat on the line. Which is it? Repeat.
It's repeat.
Can you repeat?
Repeat.
Pete.
Okay.
Hey, I just wanted to share with you a little joke that my nephew asked me. He said, Uncle Peter, can you use the word beheaded in a sentence? And I said, no, go ahead. You tell me. He said, it looks like we won't be headed to China anytime soon.
Okay. Yeah. I guess that.
But I was thinking there might be a silver lining because, you know, if the visitor arrivals slow down in the near future, all those people who were trying to book stuff for not Thanksgiving, Valentine's Day, almost the same, right?
Right.
Thanksgiving, Valentine's Day, yeah. Now we might have more openings for stuff to do.
True enough. You might.
And we might get some deals on some staycations here.
There you go.
So there's always a silver lining.
Absolutely. Now, as far as your nephew is concerned, you might coach him on his joke a little bit.
Yeah.
Try this. Use beheaded in a sentence. Okay, I guess we won't be headed to Syria anymore.
Ooh, yeah, that's a double-edged sword there.
Yeah. Oh,
I like
very good. You rammed that one right up to the hilt there, Pete.
All right. Well, you have a great weekend.
Okay.
I just arrived back from CNMI, spent 4 great days up there. Yeah, there's some stuck folks up there that can't go back.
You know, you're just lucky that you got in, because the next thing, Talina Nelson is going to shut down all traffic between Guam and the CNMI.
I got friends with boats.
Well, I guess you'd be okay on either end, but maybe just from a standpoint of being overcautious, maybe you shouldn't be headed to the CNMI again.
Not anytime soon. I'll wait for this to blow over.
Okay. Good talking to you, Repeat.
All right. Have a great weekend, Uncle Bob.
Thank you. Yeah, Repeat.
You have a lot of nephews, sir.
Yeah, it's true. Well, you know, it's, you know, the respect to party.
Do you?
Tun Bob.
You can call me Sabrino?
It's just a simple Sina is enough.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So, so anyhow, the Public Health, Centers for Disease Control, Homeland Security, and Jack are going around the island educating people about this stuff. The release states that individuals displaying symptoms of the virus or testing positive for the virus will not be deported from Guam. They will not be deported. If we got them, my gosh, we're going to keep them. GVB held an internal meeting. An internal meeting.
I think they're trying to avoid saying closed doors, sir, because that really raises your eyebrows.
That's true. An internal meeting on Thursday. I may have to send in sunshine. An internal meeting. And issued a statement expressing its confidence in the response plan put together by the lead agencies. We also are in constant communication with our source markets and have met daily with these lead agencies. In line with our mission statement, our concern and priority is health and safety of our island, stated the GVB release. Visitors are screened at airports from source markets before they come to Guam, according to GVB. In a release issued Thursday, Nelson states she has requested the Guam International Airport Authority to suspend all incoming flights from countries that have confirmed cases of coronavirus, including China, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, England, France, Norway, Iceland, and countries suspecting of having cases of coronavirus. It's irregular flights to Guam, such as Taiwan and Hong Kong, until a local mitigation plan is in place that passes muster with Jack. At this point, we know the threat of coronavirus reaching Guam is real, and we must act now to ensure our government is adequately equipped and prepared to deliver the potentially life-saving services our people, not the people, but our people, need to prevent contracting the virus, and in the event of a local case is confirmed. Nelson, who serves as chairperson of the Committees on Air Transportation and Education, has scheduled a joint oversight hearing for GIAA and the Department of Ed to discuss their preventive measures in response to the threat of coronavirus. Now, what is the point of getting these people to have a discussion? That sounds like something that ought to go on over at the library for people who are looking for a hobby or something like that. That's not what they do at the legislature. You guys make laws over there at the legislature. Boy, our Carl must have had a good time the first time on the Ferris wheel, huh? Okay, Carl, climb on board.
I'm having a competition with Jimmy. See if I can beat Jimmy's record.
All right.
Yeah, I just wanted to make one quick comment. You know, the United States has confirmed cases of coronavirus.
Well, I bet you Nelson is probably going to ask that we send a landing force to Los Angeles and prevent any flights from, or Honolulu and Los Angeles, to prevent any planes from taking off for Guam from those airports.
Yeah, I mean, if they're blocking off, you know, arriving flights from any place that has had confirmed cases, well, the United States has had confirmed cases.
There you go.
So, you know, pretty soon we're just going to be pretty much just us alone out here in the Pacific. I guess some people might like that.
Well, the separatists are probably hoping that that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty much an ideal case.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, I just wanted to call in about that irony that the entire United States, a nation of over 300 million people, has got confirmed cases. So if we want to carry that to the extreme, let's just cut off all contact with the United States too.
Well, we'll see what Senator Nelson's going to do about that one, Carl. Thanks for bringing it up.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Bye-bye.
Okay, so she's calling an oversight hearing with education and the airport to discuss their preventive measures. I went through a long explanation the other day about the difference between a parliamentary legislative system and a three-branch like we have. We don't have a parliamentary system. Senator Nelson, you are not the minister of the airport. You're a senator, and it's your job to make laws. If you want to have an oversight hearing to gather facts that will help you to make salutary laws, that's fair game. But to call a joint oversight hearing to discuss things, that's disgusting. That's not what committees are for. If you want to have a discussion, go down to 2 Ray and buy coffee, and pop for the coffee. You probably get a lot of people who come in and want to discuss then. Okay, now here we go. This is the most important part of this release. The hearing will be held at noon on February 6th in the Guam Congress Building in Hagåtña. Now that tells me that someone was listening to Tall Tales yesterday, because remember yesterday it was announced that the hearing would be held at 12 p.m. on February 6th. And I got a phone call coming in here. This is Dave. Okay, Dave, right? Afternoon, Dave.
Just Dave. Hi, Bob.
Hi.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
I know you're versed in this open government law.
I know a little bit about it.
Okay. Board meeting. During the board meeting, you know how they record the audio of the meeting?
Sure.
Yeah. In the middle of the meeting, are they allowed to abruptly turn off the audio at the chairman's request. Turn off the recorder. Turn it off now. Can they do that legally?
In an open meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think there's any requirement that open meetings be recorded. I'd have
Yeah,
to.
that's not an executive session, just a regular board meeting with all the board members present.
Yeah. So I don't think there's any requirement that regular meetings be recorded, but I'm relying on my memory, which is not always 100%. But if it's
it's a standard procedure in board meetings that I've attended, and they turn on the little recorder and record the minutes, and then the secretary would translate that into the minutes in hard copy later on. I was just wondering because.
Well, I'll have to check that out. Because if it is required, then obviously, no, you can't.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah, I would need to do a little more research on it as well. I thought you might know it off your head, but at this stage, you don't know it off your head.
So what happened after the recording was turned off?
Well, after the heated discussion between board members, myself included, they turned it back on.
Okay. How heated did the discussion get?
Pretty heated. Pretty heated. Enough for the chairman of the board to say, turn it off now. I said, gee. I said, okay. And so whoever the secretary of the meeting said, yeah. So she listened and turned it off, and we proceeded to argue a little bit more. And then when he was satisfied, the argument was over. He said, okay, turn it back on. But I thought that was really inappropriate, number one, and I don't think it's legal.
Well, on the legal part, I'm going to reserve judgment. On the inappropriate part, absolutely inappropriate.
Yeah. I just need to do a little more research on it, and I'll find out for sure. Because when we do have our next board meeting, I'm going to let our good chairman know that, no, you can't be doing that, if in fact I'm correct. Anyway, Bob, I appreciate your time. You have a great weekend, sir.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot for calling, Dave.
You're welcome, sir.
All right. So, an interesting question. I know that executive session meetings have to be recorded. I got to check that out. I feel a little bad that I couldn't answer it, that I didn't have the answer on the top of my head, because I am the #1 guru on the open government law, Real Joe Cruz. Yeah, my middle name is Open Government Law.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's take a break for the 7th inning stretch here.
Family Finance has been serving the people of Guam since 1959, and they'll continue to be there for you in the years to come. Whether you're looking to get a personal loan for that summer vacation or paying off those long overdue bills, Family Finance has got you covered. Apply for a personal loan from $1,000 up to $3,600 by calling Family Finance in Agutya at 475-4545, Upper Tumon at 647-5626, or in Dededo 633-4473. Family Finance, serving the people of Guam since 1959.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Mezcla. Mezcla Restaurant in Naganya is closed for improvements and will reopen February 2nd. You can still get all your favorites at the location in Tumon on the first floor of the Grand Plaza Hotel. Your favorites like SD-styled fish tacos, beer-battered tender fish fillet stuffed in corn tortillas and topped with cilantro lime sour cream sauce, shredded cabbage salsa fresca, and served with a spicy roasted chili salsa for only $12.95. Try it today. Available in Tumon at the Grand Plaza Hotel. Mezcla. For reservations, please call 969-2652.
Center field bleachers, Wrigley Field, Chicago. So we're going to go from center field bleachers, Wrigley Field, Chicago, back to Mezcla for a moment. So Real Joe Cruz, Mezcla is temporarily closed.
Yes, the one in Aganya, the location in Aganya, sir.
Wow. You know, the way you read those menu items, I can hardly sit still. You make it sound so good. I'm just tempted to take this headset off and head for Mescla.
And I make myself hungry too, sir.
Yeah, I've eaten there a couple times, and it's a pretty good place to eat. No question about it. Yeah, I guess that's why it comes so easy for you, huh?
You're right, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so back to this release here about Senator Nelson and her discussion. Now, I wonder if there'll be coffee and donuts. You know, maybe they should move some Davenports, some couches, some easy chairs, etc., into the session hall, so they could have a real relaxed discussion instead of an oversight hearing, which sounds so formal, right? But Talina must have been listening yesterday, because today's paper says the hearing will be held at noon on February 6th in the Guam Congress Building. Yesterday, the announcement was that the hearing would be held at 12 p.m. on February 6th. And I was thinking, wow, you want to have a hearing in the middle of the night? You remember that, real Joe Cruz?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, in the middle of the night, 12 p.m. at midnight? Nobody's going to come, Talina. Well, yeah, okay. Maybe that's the point. But now she's changed it from 12 p.m. to noon. And then remember, we had Dr. Tom Poole call up and confess that in his entire life he thought that noon was 12 p.m. So I had to go into this long discussion about what AM means and PM. AM means ante-meridian, PM means post-meridian, meridian means right smack overhead. So noon is noon. It's at when the sun is overhead. So you go from 6 o'clock in the morning to 7 to 8 to 9 to 11 a.m. And after 11 a.m., you come to not 12 a.m., not 12 p.m., you come to noon, which is like 0. So I'm glad to see that Talina changed it. She's not going to have that hearing in the middle of the night. I just hope the word got out so that there aren't people milling around down at the Congress Building in the middle of the night on February 6th. Were you going to go, real Joe Cruz?
I don't think so, sir.
Too late for you, right?
That's very late.
Past your bedtime?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'm to bed early like you.
Okay. Okay, and then going on, after they got the notice straightened out, they're going to have the hearing at noon instead of in the middle of the night. Senator Therese Terlahi has shown concern for the issue in a letter to Speaker Tina Munya Barnes, requesting the legislature pause its current January session agenda and convene into a committee of the whole in order to allow for discussion and briefing with the governor and executive branch agencies on how the legislature can assist with preventing the spread of the coronavirus to Guam. I have an answer to that question. Okay, don't call the committee of the whole. Don't have another dog and pony show. Don't have 15 directors come over there and waste their time at your committee of the whole. If you really want to help the executive branch deal with this, here's what you need to do. Stay the hell out of the way. Boy, you know, the word micromanage. If somebody else does it, it's micromanagement. If I do it, it's paying attention to detail. But this tendency, no matter what's going on, we have to have an oversight hearing, and we have to have the members of the executive branch come over here and have a discussion. They've got more important things to do than that. Give them a break. And then it winds up with a quote from Terlahi. It is of urgent concern to our community, and we should utilize all means to prevent the burden to our health systems of an infected person arriving on Guam. Well, how about doing something with Guam Memorial Hospital then? You don't have to wait until coronavirus is in town. You could have done that yesterday, last week, last month, last year, last decade, last century. But it's always better press to wait till there's some kind of an emergency and then scurry around. I don't know if Real Joe Cruz, have I ever explained to you the seagull theory of government?
I'm not sure, sir.
Well, sometimes we see government officials acting like seagulls. There's a problem. They come in, flap their wings, squawk a lot, crap all over everything, and then fly away.
I see.
So
that's savage, sir.
Yeah. But this maybe the legislature ought to have an oversight over itself to see if they're overbearing with their oversights. Okay, so much for that one. Next, we've got the Speaker aims to have Guam join the Organization of Unrepresented Nations. Now, I had to go back for a while. This is Resolution 255-35, and it was introduced last year, but people have been talking about it lately. And Tina's resolution says, Unrepresented Peoples and Nations Organization is an international membership-based organization established to empower the voices of unrepresented and marginalized people worldwide and to protect their fundamental human rights. Whoa, that's me, marginalized and unrepresented. I live in unorganized, unincorporated territory of the United States. Help! Whereas the UNPO was conceived in the late 1980s by exile leaders of people living under communist oppression. Kind of fits, doesn't it? The UNPO was formally founded at the Peace Palace in The Hague. Since then, the UNPO's membership has grown steadily from its original founders, with a membership from more than 45 peoples worldwide, comprising over 300 million people lacking true representation in domestic or international forums. Since its foundings, many members have achieved their movement's goals and found a formal seat for their people at the national or international level, and have thus left the organization. Let's see if there's anything in here anything else that's worth reading. Whereas since the beginning of the relationship with the United States, the people of Guam have never been given the ability to voice their opinion and make a decision. Did you know that, Real Joe Cruz?
I do now.
The people of Guam have never been given the opportunity to voice their opinion. Do you have an opinion on that?
No, sir.
Shut up! You can't have an opinion. Anytime anybody here on Guam would have an opinion, there is a sort of a select group of cops that have gags, and they'll come along and put a gag in your mouth. Whereas since the beginning of the relationship with the United States, the people of Guam have never been given the ability to voice their opinion or make a decision. That's a pretty profound statement. I wonder if that's the case, and why are we spending so much money to send these people on junkets to Washington and this Asian Parliamentarians Union, the Fourth Committee of the United Nations, if they don't have the ability to voice their opinion? Whereas Guam, through its legislature, based on the policies it has put forth, has held the principles of the UNPO covenant, has upheld the principles of the UNPO covenant. Doesn't that contradict the paragraph above? This includes the equal right of all peoples to self-determination, adherence to internationally accepted human rights standards, adherence to the principles of democratic pluralism. Democratic pluralism, you know, like if you vote on any kind of a question in a jurisdiction, everybody gets to vote, right? That's how we do it on Guam, right, Real Joe Cruz?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, except for one thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Our political status. And then everybody doesn't get to vote. Equal right to adherence to internationally accepted human rights, adherence to the principles of democratic pluralism, rejection of intolerance, promoting nonviolence, and the rejection of terrorism and violence as instruments of policy, as well as the protection of natural environment. We're big on that, protection of natural environment. You know, I just challenge anybody to drive around in the back streets of Guam and find things like abandoned junk cars or piles of household garbage. That just, no, that never happens. For a decade, the people of Guam have appealed to the United Nations to intervene and protect the fundamental rights of the people of Guam. And to date, there has been no reprieve. How does that sentence doesn't read? You're asking for intervention, and then you say there's been no reprieve. Doesn't follow. But you're asking for UN intervention. Have you seen these TV news stories where these powder blue tanks with the UN on the front of it come rolling down the street and some peacekeeping? Is that what they expect? That someday you'll look out the front door and you'll see these powder blue tanks rolling down Marine Corps Drive to the governor's office to install a local. No, that wouldn't work either, would it? I don't know. It's hard to know exactly what Tina Rose is driving at here. Whereas Guam is not the only place where the United States asserts its dominance over a locality and prohibits their participation in the democratic processes. Whereas the District of Columbia is also a member of UNPO. Yeah, that's certainly a place that's marginalized, right? The nation's capital. Whereas Guam can additionally benefit from its membership to the UNPO by having a seat on the international stage and access to global bodies that are mandated to defend our rights. Whoa. Now, which global bodies would be mandated to defend my rights, I wonder? I'm thinking of, well, I don't know if that's global or not, but I'm thinking about maybe the United States government. Okay, and then there's the standard resolution language here. The 35th legislature does hereby recognize the struggles of the people of Guam and further urges the Speaker and the Chairwoman on the Committee on Federal Foreign Affairs to work with UNPO to cement Guam's status as a member. Now, if we're going to be joining organizations, wouldn't that be a job for the governor? Not for the legislature? Seems to me. Our Carl again? Wow. Okay, good afternoon, our Carl. You don't need to hang up this time. Just stay on the line, our Carl. It'll save the Real Joe Cruz a little trouble.
I told you I'm out to try to break Jimmy's record.
Oh, you're doing it.
Okay. No, you keep bringing up things that I really feel compelled to call in about, and that really, it's kind of hard to get me to call in, although some people might not believe that. But 3 times in one day, that's pretty rare. But I just like to weigh in on this UNPO thing. This unrepresented people's organization. And how we've appealed to the United Nations on this issue, and you know how this is really a sore spot with me. I every time you say the United Nations, that's my trigger word. You have certain trigger words. My eye starts twitching when you say the United Nations. All those so-called colonies that are on the Fourth Committee's list, the UN Fourth Committee for Decolonization, all of them except one are under Western administration or control. Guam is one of them. I find that ironic that that there's all this pressure from the UN to end oppression on these colonies.
Can I interrupt for a second? I don't sense this pressure from the UN. I see kind of the Tarina Nelson approach. Let's have a discussion about it.
Yeah. Well, I think they're trying to maybe rouse them into pressuring the United States to do certain things. But, I always, whenever I can, I bring up the irony of the fact that, the United Nations has not added to that list of colonies that need to be decolonized Eastern Turkestan, which is now known as Xinjiang. That's where the Uyghur Muslims are and is going through such tremendous oppression. They haven't added to the list Tibet, which they invaded in the 1950s and killed over 1.2 million Tibetans by the Tibetans' own estimates. They haven't added to it Hong Kong, and the reason why I say Hong Kong is because despite not having any plebiscite, it's clear by the massive protests that have been going on for months, the Hong Kong people are not interested in being forcefully absorbed into communist China. So and I could go on. There's much more oppression going on there, but it's a real sore spot with me. Whenever people bring up this righteous indignation that the UN should have toward Guam. Last time I checked, there weren't any massive protests on Guam streets with thousands and thousands or tens of thousands of residents spilling out into the streets and demanding an end to oppression, like in Hong Kong.
Well, Ishmael Velez has an interesting take on it here. He posted on Facebook. He says, Pakistanis in blue armored vehicles knocking down the doors of the non-in people. That's what Tina wants. Yeah, very, very true. I sense that seems to be the direction that things are going, dividing up the island into different identity groups. I saw one post on Facebook in which someone from that side of the issue was saying that it's time to end all property tax for Chamorros. Mm-hmm.
All property tax, not for all people, but just for Chamorros. So little by little, we start to see where this is all headed.
Chamocracy, government by Chamorros, by Chamorros, for Chamorros, right? That's what the separatists are looking for. They're just too cagey to come out and say it just yet, but they will.
Well, there are little hints that appear here and there that, it's like a card player showing their hand without really thinking, really meaning to. But you see little hints here and there of where this is all going. And I absolutely agree with what you're saying. This is headed, especially when you see who's in the core leadership of this, leftists, academics, and when you have that, Marxists, it really can have only one end aim and one end goal. And we see this in the States, the cry for socialism. And that is their nirvana, their heaven on earth. So it can't end any other way. It's impossible. They're, like you say, they're being cagey about it. But that is where it's all headed, no doubt, not one atom of doubt. Anyway, Bob, thank you for allowing me to weigh in. I sure appreciate it.
Okay, Carl, thanks for calling. And we're coming up here on the home stretch. I've got Kellis on the line, and I got a couple of really important things that I'm going to spit out here, Kellis, and then I'll get to you, and you probably take it down to the end of the show.
Wow, nice smile. So perfect and all.
Thanks. I owe it all to Dr. Robert Yang and his Smile Team. They do wonders for a healthy, happy mouth.
Got teeth? Don't wait until they hurt. Schedule your routine checkup and cleaning with Dr. Yang and his Smile Team. Suite 119 in the East West Business Center, Upper Tumon. Call 647-8702 or 3.
The best thing that happened to teeth since toothpaste.
Dr. Yang and his Smile Team.
They make smiles happen.
Talk to us with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Okay, here we are, coming down the home stretch, Churchill Downs, and Robert Camacho jumps in to answer Dave Duane's question. Thank you, Robert, and this is what Robert says. Open meetings, the open meetings law requires meetings to be recorded, and a copy shall be given to the public Office of the Public Accountability in 7 days. And Robert cites 5 GCA subsection 8113.1. So it's got to be recorded, and a copy of the recording goes to the Office of Public Accountability, Dave. So there you go. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate your help. So the next question then, Dave, are you going to let this go? Because you have an open government violation, and the only way, you remember, I'm sure you've heard that little litany that the real Joe Cruz reads about active and informed citizens. So the only way that we're going to make the open government law work is when something like this comes up, that somebody does something about it. So I'm hoping that you're not going to just say, "Oh, that was bad, don't do it again." I hope that you're going to take some action on that. And I got a couple of other interesting things here. Ken Leon Guerrero says that they're debating 255 right now, so I'm going to come back to that tomorrow. And Maria Fagotgut, so tired of this dog and pony show legislature and executive branch, coming up with all these resolutions and joining organizations just so they can scream like at me. Look what I did. A waste of our taxpayers' dollars. So that's kind of the feeling out there, I think, in our international radio listening audience. Okay, so let's see what Kellis has for us now. Kellis?
Well, I figured out, how you can compare Guam to Hong Kong. So, for example, if you have tens of thousands of people in Hong Kong that are in the streets and whatnot rioting, so if you look at the population of Hong Kong, compare it to the population of Guam, so if I have probably half a person that is, upset and drives by the legislature and sticks out their tongue, that would be the equivalent.
I guess.
So that's why I'm saying in the population side, or, the indignation of someone sitting in their car saying, I think I should, because just by them saying that they should protest, they have protested.
Yeah, well, people get pretty cranked up about this separatist movement, don't they, Kellis?
And then because, just sit there and think about it, like you just look at our court system and stuff like that. So like in, like Hong Kong and Taiwan, like in Taiwan, you spit on the curb and you get caned. You understand? So in Guam, you sell meth and you get a nasty look and a finger wag.
And job protection.
Yes, and job protection. Yes. And then also, if you're fired, then you get like a $750,000 and your job back.
Right.
And a nasty finger wag at the politicians for firing you in the first place.
Exactly.
So I think that's how you can see that Guam is very similar. If you look at our population-wise.
Okay, that's an interesting comparison, Kellis. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good one, Bob.
All righty. Let's see, I got somebody else coming up here, Real Joe Cruz. It's going to be probably the end of the show here. I'm going to come back to UNPO tomorrow for sure, because there's a lot to talk about there. Okay, I got Ron on the line. Ron, you're going to take it right down to the end.
I figured I was late, but I was driving home and listening to that, and this thing about Hong Kong, well, I just want to tell you, while I agree, my in-laws are here right now. They're from Hong Kong. They're older, and they feel like they represent the majority of the people that live in Hong Kong, and they all support the government absorption of Hong Kong. They feel like they're from Hong Kong. They're Chinese. Hong Kong is China. The college-age people, the young people are protesting. But remember how many millions of people there are there. I'm just saying there's two sides to this story. And you get caned in Singapore, but nobody actually does it. So there's a little hysteria there from your last guest. But it's not like everybody is totally on the side. Whoops.
I understood. Yeah, I understand.
So that's all. I'm just saying there's two sides to every story here. But I'm on the freedom from Hong Kong side. I support that side.
I'm wondering, were your in-laws living in Hong Kong during the British days, or did they come after the reversion?
Born and raised.
In Hong Kong.
Born and raised in Hong Kong.
And they see
They're
them.
one of the millions and millions and millions, and their parents, both sides, born and raised in Hong Kong.
Okay. That's an interesting take.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Who's to say?
Yeah.
It's China.
Right.
It's China.
Right.
We're not China, but China's China.
Yeah.
At any rate, I enjoy your show. Keep up the good work.
We'll do it, Ron. Thank you very much for sharing today.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. We need to have a 3 strikes law here on Tall Tales, Real Joe Cruz. What do you think, Carl? I think we need a 3 strikes and you're out.
Yeah, you're just too popular, Bob.
There you go.
I just wanted to respond to that comment. I was going based on many videos I've seen with hundreds of thousands of people protesting in the streets. It's true not everyone is against being absorbed into China, but a significant number are. And I've seen, I think there was one video, it was like over 1 million people spilled into the streets. And that's just the people that were there. You know, there were probably people that wanted to be there, but for whatever reason they couldn't. They were working.
Let's pick it up
Anyway,
tomorrow,
it's a mixed
Carl.
bag.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Carl.
Bye.
Okay, another exciting, entertaining, elucidated episode of Tall Tales comes to an end. Have no fear, the Real Joe Cruz and I will tough it out over the weekend. We'll be back on Monday.
The Point is